Trying to see if that's a show. Look at those dips. Speed dips in the area, hitting them like they're hitting them, or not even slowing down. You can see that air thumping around, blacked out in a residential street, going 40 miles an hour over these dips. We're going westbound here on 60th, approaching Walnut. It's a GMC pickup truck, a single cab, so no back seat in this one. Look at that, just going over those dips like a roller coaster here, getting bumped around big time. Now we're making a right turn on Orange. Northbound on Orange, so the ground units have canceled the pursuit. Right now, it's just the Sheriff's Department helicopter overhead. Going over the LA River right now as we continue westbound on Artesia through the red light over the top of the 710 freeway. Slowing down a little bit. Okay, so we're going to pull out and show you that. CHP back on them with their emergency equipment on, moving in, closing that distance to re-engage that pursuit. So backing off the pursuit didn't help. Didn't get them to slow down at all. Still went through a lot of red lights on the side streets. Now we're really getting some speed. We're going to get you some accurate speeds. So we get a little tighter here, but that is 105 miles an hour in a pickup truck that's really not built to do that. High center of gravity. Looks like it's not one of those load trucks. It's a high center GMC pickup truck, no extra cab. Passing vehicles on the 710 like they're not even, like they're stopped. Weaving back and forth between the number 1 and the number 3 lanes. Pushing 100 miles an hour, between 90 and 100 miles an hour. So very dangerous now. It would, seeing a lot of activity. Not only is he driving like that, he's got a light on. You can see the left hand is off the wheel. There's some kind of a light on, like he's maybe texting, or he's got the cell phone on one hand and maybe something else on the right hand. So a lot of distraction going on in that pickup truck going 100 miles an hour plus on this 710 freeway. Just passing Willow. The exit's Willow. We're coming up on that right now. Not a lot of traffic right there, but you're seeing a lot of activity. Rob Gluckman, operating the Extreme Vision in Air 7 HD, is noticing that as well. You can see all the activity inside of there. Well, you know what that might be too is, as we took a closer look, that is actually the mirror reflection of that black and white California Highway Patrol vehicle right behind them. So coming up on Wilmington, westbound Sepulveda Boulevard, there's our speed, still pushing 90 miles an hour, 80 plus miles per hour. Slowing down a little bit. There's the brake lights. Hard on the brakes. We're going to widen out just a little bit because we have some cross traffic. Whoa! Right through the red light at Wilmington. Didn't barely slow down, almost into the back of that big rig, pulling into that industrial area. Now we're down to 70 miles per hour. We'll see if it gets 90 again. But, I mean, if there'd been a vehicle going northbound or southbound on Wilmington there, that would have been it.
Northbound Maine. Okay, we're in Carson, northbound Maine. Hey, what's the original one? What's the original one? Looks like... Northbound Maine, passing 51st Street. Solid red, solid red. Solid red, a lot of traffic. Wait. Whoa, wrong side of the road. Yeah, we're in Carson, on Maine, wrong side of the road. Just past 223rd Street. Slowing down a little bit though. All right, back on the right side of the road. We're in Carson, pickup truck pursuit, California Highway Patrol. I'm not sure if they're actually still behind him anymore. There they are. It's wanted for speed. He has been speeding, believe it or not. Lights have been off. He's been doing some erratic moves, especially recently since we've been here. He's been on the wrong side of the road a couple times. High speeds, coming up on solid reds, been threading the needle. So far, we haven't seen any collisions. That's what we like. Full-size pickup truck. Whoa, hard on the brakes. Oh, that was one of those ones. But again, it looks like we are northbound wait a minute, what, are we northbound? We're westbound. Westbound Carson, and we're approaching Figueroa, so we're getting very close to the 110 freeway. Oh, that's not nice. That's not nice. Approaching what? Sil Carson. He's actually going to be eastbound now. Southbound Maine from Del Amo. Wrong side of the road. Well, that's right. Look at that. He's southbound in the northbound lanes on Main, running red lights. Just saw another black and white right there. Now, California Highway Patrol, they're the ones in pursuit of this vehicle. We just saw that the dangerous maneuver there, southbound Main. The original one, just speeding. So it really got to make you think, why is this guy really running and so desperate to get away? This pursuit's been going on for quite some time. We're just going to leave. We've seen that in the past, but many times the vehicle doesn't slow down. The media, we stay above, and we keep showing that picture. And you know, I'm sure the discussion that we're having, law enforcement, they're having it as well. And somebody says, you know what, this is too much of a problem. This guy is might hurt somebody, and we know about it. We need to do something. Right now, though, we're in this residential neighborhood. He's making these bizarre turns out here. That's the second U-turn he's made on this smaller street. We're going to get you the city here, and if we can get an ear on exactly the name of the street, we'll get that to you as quick as possible. But basically, he's just making these U-turns right now. The helicopter overhead, they've got him lit up, but it does seem like he might know this area, or maybe he's using a GPS. But continuing on now, and residential for sure, and definitely higher speeds.
As you were saying, Stu,
back on Del Amo.
Many departments changing their policies as we go along. It evolves as we learn more about some of the strategies of these drivers. Although I don't know if anybody can really predict how these folks are going to drive, but. Well, this guy now pulling into, it looks like a gas station, going right through, taking the shortcut. But part of the purpose of changing these policies and going in tracking mode is
there's no other vehicles on the road, or very, very few. Making our way back into the Carson area. Wardlow, basically just south of the 405 right now, will turn back into 223rd Street. But it brings us back into that Carson area. We've seen him there earlier. But we're just passing over Alameda right now, so it gives you an idea where we are. Industrial, thank goodness for that. That means a little bit less traffic out here. But nevertheless, this guy moving along, high speeds. We believe he's in there by himself. So westbound Wardlow coming up on Wilmington. But look, passing people constantly. And they're saying 90 miles an hour is what this guy is doing right now, just getting a little bit wider because we know some more intersections are coming up. They're also talking about that right there, the road work. So it's getting a little bit tighter. But this is so dangerous for the public. Lights on, lights off, you know, I don't think that really adds too much, just makes it a little bit more dangerous. Those high speeds, that's what's going to make it dangerous for the public.
Well, right now, we're not seeing any opportunities for law enforcement on the ground and patrol cars to effectively end this right now. They have decided to take the tracking mode approach here, and maybe hoping that this person would come to their senses, pull over, slow down. That's not happening. So, Stu, what could be the next course of action here? They've been following this guy around in roughly the same areas. What are we seeing in terms of maybe spike strips, maybe re-engaging the CHP officers to follow behind with the lights and sirens? What's the next course of action they have available?
Oh, you know, that's the other side of it. It's like, how do they bring these things to an end? You know, we've talked about the spike strips at these high speeds and on these streets, and just the randomness of where this person is going. Makes the spike strips very difficult to deploy.
Well, Stu, you called it, although you thought maybe LAPD, if this person gets into that jurisdiction, that they may engage in the chase. But it looks like now CHP still has control of this pursuit, and it looks like they're now getting tired of this guy leading them on this chase. They gave him an opportunity by backing off and turning off the lights and sirens, giving him space, giving him time to make the right decision. Not at all did he ever show any signs of slowing down, not even in the residential areas. We saw the typical behavior we see in pursuits, blowing through stop signs, red lights, intersections, narrowly missing people, driving on the wrong side of the road, never let up on the gas pedal, going 60+ miles per hour through the residential. And now, Stu, you're saying upwards of 90, 100 miles per hour here on the 405 freeway. The only sort of silver lining we have here is that it's 11:20 at night and there's not a lot of traffic on the freeway, meaning there are far less people being put in danger by this person leading the CHP and sheriff's deputies up above in the helicopter on this pursuit.
You know, Elsa, we've checked every box, and I mean that, like every box that for when we follow these chases. This guy has done everything that we have seen in the past. You know, the high speeds, we're just hoping, just keeping it in our minds, thinking, gosh, I hope he doesn't cause an accident. We've seen him, we saw him cut somebody off earlier on. It might have been before we went live. He just, basically just pushed somebody into the curb. But he's basically on a transition right now. They're even saying it. Just hang on. They're gonna call the transition here in a moment. But it does sound like it's going to be a northbound transition right here. But you saw some other California Highway Patrol, and you can see the vehicle by itself here pretty much. But this vehicle is still moving, sometimes at 100 miles an hour, pushing its way through traffic, lighter traffic for sure this evening, but definitely still very, very dangerous. And this person behind the wheel, we don't know what his mindset is. I mean, he's been driving this kind of speeds for a long time. Might be getting tired. He might start making some bad mistakes. But right now, I can tell you, northbound 710 freeway, looking ahead, this one a little bit more crowded. Now he's actually using the emergency lane to pass, and it's just another box that we're checking off. You know, using the emergency lanes. There he goes. This pursuit continues on northbound 710 right now, basically heading back to the area, basically where we started.
So we want to point out again, and we weren't calling at all in question the strategy of law enforcement. It's a case of you're darned if you do, darned if you don't. When they were just tracking and they were laying back, he was going up to 80 miles per hour on surface streets. When they decided, okay, that's getting too dangerous, we're going to pursue, then he's opened up his speeds on freeways. And you can see riding right behind drivers as he makes the transition onto another road here.
Well, you know, Rick, I would never second guess what those officers do down there. You know, we watch them, we work with them, and I got to tell you, I mean it. It's hats off to those guys. I couldn't, if somebody said, hey, how would you bring it to an end?
You can see our picture just froze up there, and Stu's still there.
Stu, you there?
Go ahead. Oh, back on surface street.
Yeah, we're still back. And you know, we're back on Del Amo, or we were on Del Amo. I think we just made a turn off of Del Amo. Hard on the brakes, getting back into another residential neighborhood. But you can see this time, California Highway Patrol right behind him in numbers. And but this vehicle, keeping those high speeds over here, this might be one of those areas where we were earlier on. I'm looking for a little landmark that we saw earlier on. Look at that. No more officers. They're in the area. So this might be an area that they believe that this person lives in. So that vehicle definitely in this neighborhood, number of law enforcement in the area, and hopefully this is going to come to an end peacefully and also with no type of injuries or no collisions in any kind of way. Back onto Del Amo Boulevard.
Right, Stu, it does seem pretty interesting that there were a lot of patrol cars in that one particular residential area. It's not uncommon that we see many times in these pursuits that the person leading law enforcement on pursuits really just sticks around their own neighborhood. They know the streets, they know the on-ramps, the off-ramps, they know the lay of the land in their area, and they go back to what they know. So that could be the case. They could know who is behind the wheel. They could know where that truck is registered to, and perhaps that's why they're staking out the neighborhood. But in the meantime, they are turning up the heat. They're making their presence known. CHP, they're making their presence known a lot more than they were just a little bit ago when they tried to give him a chance to make the right decision. Obviously, that wasn't going to happen, so now they're switching to the next strategy. But again, Stu, this guy's not slowing down at all and hasn't shown any signs throughout this entire pursuit that he intends to.
He has not slowed down at all. We're going to be approaching Alameda if we haven't just crossed it right there. The vehicle actually speeding up now. And you're right, you know, a lot of times we see these guys or gals, the people that they're being pursued, go back to the neighborhoods where they feel safe or an area that they believe that they know. But in this case, that might have been what we just saw right there. There was a lot of law enforcement in that neighborhood, lights and sirens. You look at this one right there, making a hard turn right there. It looks like we're going southbound, that's for sure. We'll get the name of the street here in just a second. But you can see that it picked a street that seems to be a little bit less traffic, but definitely really picking up that speed. We're making a big sharp turn right there. That's one of the reasons why I'm staying so wide. But you get an idea with those wider shots how fast this guy is going. Southbound is direction right now. I know they were coming up onto another freeway. If he continues on, I think the 110 is going to be up there in just a second. Industrial, we're going to be getting outbound. We're not going to make it there. Turning back onto a residential neighborhood right here. But no officers on the ground behind him right now. The helicopter's still above him, and all of a sudden, that truck really slowing down.
Well, you know, driving again without lights, I don't want to try to get into the mind of somebody who's leading a pursuit, but I find it interesting that I can't imagine that driver could feel safe. I mean, they know the airship can spot them. You got street lights, you got headlights. Time to bail, it looks like.
And here we see it.
Yep, there's the door. And there he goes. He's leaving the truck, and he's off running. You know, that's just not nice. See, that thing's going to crash into somebody's parked car.
He's running through the neighborhood.
Red hat, shorts,
right there. We're going to give you the address here in a second. He's got a blue shirt, red hat, dark shorts, black socks, black shoes, and he's in the rear yard of 1807 East 214th Street, right under there. We'll see if we pick him up. Right under that yellow tarp. We're going to stay a little bit wider, watching the nights under the helicopter. He had a black shorts on, black sweatshirt, red hat, dark shorts, dark tennis shoes, and black socks. So a lot of times what they'll do when they run is they'll strip their clothing down. So right now what's happening, we're not going to pull out from here, but the California Highway Patrol and the LA Sheriff's Department are setting up a containment. They're getting units surrounding this area. The officers in that helicopter, right, they're using that night sun to keep the suspect down. That means he knows that night sun's there and on him. He's not going to come out of there because he knows they'll see him. So right now what it's doing is it's buying officers time to set up around him. So there are officers setting up in perimeter form around him. You can see right there, there's one of them, CHP on the north side. That's going to be, we're going to go ahead and turn our streets on so we can see that right now just a little bit. That's 213th Street to the north, and Water Street is to the west. So they're getting units deployed around where they last saw the suspect. So this is what we talked about earlier, David and Michelle. They're setting up that containment, setting up that perimeter so they can get them locked in there, and then they'll get canine and they'll do a yard-to-yard search, and they'll come up with a suspect in there. We didn't see anything in his hands. He didn't appear to be armed, but definitely hit one of the fences into the backyard last seen in this area here.
Okay, so we're at East 214th Street in Carson. That's where the suspect bailed out of the moving vehicle. Thankfully, it came to a stop. It looked like it didn't hit any other cars. And he ran under, it almost appeared like he may have entered that building. It is a possibility, or perhaps he's hiding somewhere in one of those yards.
JT,
we last saw him right under our pointer here with Sky Map 7. We'll push in. Last saw him right under this bushy tree and this tarp covering. So that is a lot of cover for the suspect to use. So more than likely trying to find a place here to bed down. Did not see him go out in either of these directions. More than likely, like we mentioned, they kind of stayed bedded down when that night sun's on him. But right near 1807 East 214th Street, running in a northbound direction. So again, giving officers plenty of time to set up around him. Go ahead with your question, guys. I didn't mean to interrupt.
I don't want to say too much, but I'll just throw the question at you. What tools do they have from the helicopter to help them track this guy down besides the light?
Yeah, right now the primary focus of the tactical flight officer in the helicopter is to get units deployed around, get enough units, get all the corners, get mid-block, get it locked down. Secondarily, what's going to happen is all of these ships have what's called a FLIR on board. That's forward-looking infrared, and it's a camera system. But the difference between the camera system you're seeing here in Air 7 HD and their system is that their system sees temperature instead of light. So it can keep completely pitch black down there, and what it does is it senses the temperature of a suspect. So if he were bedded down on the side of one of these houses or under bushes, you would see a definite heat source, and the heat source is represented in either a black color or a white color depending on how the system is set up. So what they'll do is they'll search this area to see if there's any unusual hot spots coming out from under a bush where there wouldn't normally be a hot spot. It could be a dog, it could be something else, but what they do is they try to eliminate all those hot spots while they continue to search that block. So when they get it locked down, which they have a really good idea, in fact we'll go a little bit wide here, and we'll go a little bit wide you the perimeter and how they've got it set up here. There's a good look with SkyMap 7 itself. You've got units right here on Wilmington in the corner, mid-block right here on each corner. So we're going to go ahead and wrap it up.
Awesome, thank you. My pilot, Jim Pollard, is giving me some information that he's hearing from the LA County Sheriff's helicopter overhead. This particular home that we're looking at here, which is on 213th, it's the 1800 block of 213th Street. Apparently they're getting a hot spot from their FLIR camera using the heat detection. They're detecting some heat coming from a source here in this backyard, which is actually just diagonally across from the home where we saw the suspect last. So it's within a very close proximity of that original home. So they're gonna move a team of officers over to this home here on 213th Street and see if they have some luck in locating the suspect here. Again, this is a home that's just diagonally across, maybe about 2 homes away from the original home that we were looking at. So it's really not out of the question that the suspect could have gotten to this particular home, but they are picking up a hot spot here in the backyard under a patio cover from my understanding. So we're gonna monitor this home and watch as a team of officers approaches here in the next few minutes, and perhaps they may locate the suspect here. You can see this team of officers moving in here. They're actually on the home that's just to the south of the home that is now in question. So they're first using their flashlights to light it up. We've got the helicopter overhead lighting up the backyard. There's a patio cover I'm hearing. There's a hot spot coming off of it, but the sheriff's helicopter, of course, can't quite tell what the source of that heat is, but it's a definite possibility that that may be the heat from the suspect that the helicopter is detecting, and that is why we will now see a team of officers move to this backyard and figure out exactly what that heat source is, and if it is in fact that suspect that they have been looking for now for approximately 20 minutes since this pursuit ended, but of course they were chasing him for a lot longer than that, approximately an hour long pursuit leading up to this suspect search now here in Carson. what's our time, Jim? Do we have 5 more minutes, or do we need a bounce? Okay. So for all of you who continue to watch us here on the NBC Online website and on our app, we actually will have to be departing, but we have some ground units, some of our news vans that are now on the scene, and we'll continue to monitor this situation for you and bring you all of the latest updates on this suspect search for a pursuit suspect here in the Carson area tomorrow on Today in LA. Thank you for your viewership and have a good night.
A person of interest has been identified in the search for a suspect who led the CHP in a high-speed pursuit. Investigators want to speak with 31-year-old David Mark Oliver. They say he currently has a warrant for his arrest and a prior conviction for evading police. Authorities began chasing that white GMC pickup truck there about 10:30 last night after the driver allegedly failed to stop at a DUI checkpoint in Lakewood. The driver eventually jumped out of the truck in Carson and was last seen running through a neighborhood on East 214th Street, but wound up getting away.